Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. We are live. Good morning, people of LinkedIn. Good morning if you are tuning in live on YouTube. Good morning, Gemma. Officially.
Hello. Thank you for having
And
me.
yeah, no, good morning. Good morning to everyone. If you are, we've had another 4-day week. If you're joining us live here in the UK, please do put a good morning in the chat. We'd love to hear who we've got on. We're talking about thriving communities. And surprise, surprise, we got Gemma Saint from Swoop Analytics. Gemma, thank you so much for stepping in literally with less than 24 hours to go to talk about this topic.
That's okay. You're very welcome. Thank you for asking me. Obviously, you know this. I'm very passionate about this topic, so
Yeah.
more than happy to help. More than happy to help.
Absolutely. So for anybody that doesn't know Gemma, so Gemma is the director for Swoop Analytics in North America. How have you ended up with North America, Gemma, just before we go into your illustrious background?
So I was actually a customer of Swoop Analytics. I actually used Swoop at where I used former work at B&Q. I used it at Virgin Media O2. So very close to the team. My equivalent, Pete Johns, he looks after EMEA. There was an opening for North America. The CEO got in contact and said, would you love to join, but you'll be covering North America. I absolutely jumped at the chance. So I do have fantastic jobs, and my partner who I work with, Coco, she's amazing. So she's based on the West Coast. I cover East Coast. So I do a lot of travel to the US, Canada. So I'm going to Canada in a couple of weeks. But that's how I got to cover North America. But because I'm based in the UK, I also help. I can pick up. And I obviously came to London for your ERG summit.
Exactly.
So I can cover Europe, I can cover UK, and I can cover North America.
Amazing. Good morning. And good morning, Pauline Isherwood. Good morning, Pauline. It's been a while since you've joined us. I hope you've had a really good summer. Thank you so much for jumping on this. Online communities, online and offline, we're going to be talking a little bit about today. But Gemma, I know that your online communities are kind of like your thing, because I know when we were talking about the prep yesterday, you've been involved in online communities for many, many years. So this is your introduction as per ChatGPT, who now writes these mini introductions for me. Gemma has spent her career building online communities and digital workplaces at some seriously complex organizations. She has led and advised on community strategy and internal channels and comms at Virgin Media O2, probably Virgin Media when you were there, Carnival, B&Q within the Kingfisher Group, and Old Mutual, Scandia, and Accenture. And obviously now you're with Swoop Analytics, who are partners for Microsoft Viva Engage, and also Workplace from Meta, I think you've worked with as well. So, and good morning to Junior Beeman. Good morning from scorching Turkey. Oh my gosh, how hot is it, Junior? I've heard it is absolutely scorching over there as well. I know sometimes here in the UK we're like, gosh, isn't it hot? But in Turkey, it's definitely hot, right? So, good morning. I too am from a slightly different location. I was saying to Gemma, I'm house sitting this morning, and I am due to have a British gas engineer come through the door any second. So if my camera goes off, you'll know absolutely why. But Gemma, we are definitely going to get into online communities, and I know let's just start with your really broad experience of online communities, because I know that you've got this background in internal comms, digital marketing. So just talk us through your background. You might have heard my knock on the door, and so I'm going to go cameras off. So talk us about your experience. I will do that.
Of course. Thanks, Cheryl. So I started working with social networks. My time at B&Q. So we had a frontline workers, 22,000 people. And at that time, there was nowhere for for us to communicate with our frontline workers. I had an amazing IT team, and they had access to Microsoft 365. We needed a channel or a way for us to communicate with stores and with head office. And so I worked with the IT team for us to turn on, at the time, Yammer. So I worked firstly we worked with a select few stores. We actually did a groundswell with Yammer. I think maybe more traditional is that top down, but we wanted to go for that bottom up. And I think that worked so well for us, because traditionally people in stores, there was only a few of them that had email addresses. They didn't have access to PCs, so trying to connect with somebody in head office, it proved impossible. And so what we could do is we got them to download the Yammer app, install it on mobile devices. It's not mandatory. We've made sure people are, and I work very closely with the employee forum team. But we just managed to turn it on, and within I want to say weeks, it grew, and we could replace tools like WhatsApp with an approved a tool that was, IT had signed off, all the due diligence had done, everybody had access to it. We weren't running that risk of tools like WhatsApp as somebody leaving. I had a really great example of, I think somebody will say that their son had done sort of like an internship at Habitat, Sainsbury's, something like that, and were left on the WhatsApp group. So they knew when sales were coming before. So it's things like that. It's just thinking about mitigating issues. So having these approved channels, so we could close WhatsApp quite quickly. We had this approved channel, it was growing, and then actually working very closely with the employee forum team, then that's when they started seeing, could we start creating the ERG groups? And then again it comes into itself, and that sort of completely transformed the way that we communicated at B&Q. And I remember when I left B&Q, people were saying, what a legacy to leave, because it completely changed the way that we worked with people. Not only, we brought the Kingfisher banners together. So I was talking to people in other stores based in France. I was working with the internal comms team, either in the UK, other areas of the UK, or across Europe, and it's amazing. And so that is when I was first really introduced. So that was about 2016, 2017. It was brilliant. So I've got a lot of time, a lot of passion. I'm very passionate about social networks. They've got to be implemented right, which is what we're going to talk about today. It does take time. It's not a turn it on and wait for everyone to come. That just it doesn't happen. And I know we've spoken about it, but it is also, I think, getting that leadership involved, getting that stakeholder, getting someone to just promote, advocate that it is okay to use a social network, during work.
Absolutely. And it was interesting, you talking about Yammer there, that really took me back, because I remember hearing about Yammer, I want to say like maybe 2014. I heard about Yammer, like way back then. Yammer is, for that, I mean, some of you might remember Yammer, but Yammer is effectively almost like was the forerunner of Microsoft Viva Exchange, right?
Viva Engage, yes. It is Yammer. It's still Yammer. So it was Yammer. Microsoft, I think, took over it in 2012. So that's how Swoop actually came about in 2014, because we do the analytics for tools like Viva Engage. So our CEO was, working in the network space. They were building out organizational network maps. How are people communicating? How are people working together? And then Microsoft had bought Yammer, no analytics. So that's how we came about. So we do the analytics for Viva Engage. But exactly, that Yammer, and then it got rebranded to Viva Engage probably about 3 years ago. So it's Engage is what was Yammer.
And good morning, Hardev, as well. So good morning, Hardev. So we got a few employee network leaders on today, and we are going to be talking specifically about like things like when you're setting up and how to get people really active, etc. Because I know that is a real challenge for employee networks, because I have seen a bit like you've said, Gemma. I've seen where some employee networks literally kind of like plug it in. And almost, it's a bit like, like the film, if you build it, they will come. But they build it and then they don't come. So there's something about how does that happen? And interestingly, so if I go back to that first example you gave with B&Q and Yammer being switched on, I have, I think I was in an organization, I don't want to say which one it was, when Yammer sort of like, I guess, first came out, and it was switched on and nothing really happened. So let's maybe just talk about the culture that it takes you know, what's kind of almost like the environment, etc., that we need, and the culture that it takes, you know, to actually get people using it? You know, what does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. I was exactly the same place. It was switched on at a company and then quite quickly switched off because nobody knew what to do with it. So you absolutely, how is Viva Engage or any other social network, how is this going to sit alongside your existing channels? Are you going to remove a channel? Just please don't go in and say, here's another one to add to the channel mix. So really take a step back. Now, social networks are brilliant for that two-way engagement. So if you don't have, so if at the moment you're very much broadcast, if you have an intranet, if you're email, you know, you're reliant on newsletters, tools like Viva Engage are great for replacing that newsletter, the all-employee email. But it takes time. So I've been really, really lucky to work with some incredible IT teams. So it's about getting HR involved. It's about getting IT involved. It's working with the different departments. What I was doing, as I said, when I was at B&Q, we spoke, I would go along monthly to the employee forum, the forum meetings. So just to get that, people aware of its coming, how it's going to be used. You need that governance. So I've actually done some blog posts. I don't have the links here, but I'll share them afterwards. But I have created some posts on thinking about governance. Now, the governance side is really important, but you don't need to be too onerous with it. Now, what I have done is just work with HR or work with you know, areas who build out policies, what's in place, what's already there, and then you would just literally we added paragraphs, you know, a few lines to introduce tools like Viva Engage, Workplace from Meta, existing channels you're using, to make sure that you are protected as a you know, channels owner and as users. They need to know, manage expectations, what to use. So it does take a bit of time, a bit of groundwork. So I just wouldn't turn it on and then, you know, hope for the best. So that's what I would suggest. But get a project group going, and then what I've always done is get champions involved. Always champions involved.
And let's just talk about the governance and maybe some of those challenges, and we'll get into things like, you know, like you say about the champions and roles and things like that, because Junior's so it looks as though so Junior is a network lead at NatWest, so it looks as though NatWest maybe have recently gone on to Viva Engage. Sounds so much better than Yammer. And for anybody that doesn't know Viva Engage, I mean, I sort of use the throwaway line like it's a little bit like Facebook or LinkedIn internally, right? Is that a fair description of Viva Engage for anybody that doesn't know? Engage sounds so much better than Yammer. We use it now, but had Workplace by Meta before. The transition has been an interesting challenge, right? Whenever somebody says interesting, that probably means it's had its pros and its cons. Junior, if you can share any specific questions or any specific challenges you've had, great. Let's just talk about the governance in particular, because you know, Gemma, you'll know I reached out to you very recently with an organization I was doing some work with, because I know that they had effectively like unleashed Viva Engage on the organization, didn't really have any governance in place around its use, and actually, given the current environment and the polarization and all of the politics and everything going on, it's been a bumpy ride, fair to say, right? And so they are now almost like backpedaling and trying to put that governance in place. So I know you've written a specific blog post. Are there any kind of like tips that you could give around kind of, you know, like levels of moderation, you know, how you manage content, etc., that's going in to make sure that people are, you know, safe from, you know, harassment, bullying, you know, disrespectful kind of content, that kind of thing?
Absolutely. Now, you know, you should already have these processes in place. So it will just align with what you already have, you know, in place. And remind people, it is still a professional channel. Your name is against your comment. Your picture is against your comment, you know. And what we used to say to people is, if you just wouldn't say it face to face and just don't put it, on Viva Engage, on tools like Viva Engage, and whether that is harassment, whether it is malicious content or comments, or even confidential information, it doesn't. You just need to think about, is this something that you would say to somebody in the street? It's so easy, I think, with, like you said, the polarization, what you see. You do have tools like Twitter, unfortunately, that pick keyboard warriors. I think that's okay, that's acceptable. I see it. Bots. We've got bots now coming into conversations that are just vile. But just remind people, it is a work. And during my time of doing this, so I've been doing this for over 10 years, I've only ever had one malicious comment. Everything else is just people, they don't mean it. It was just maybe taken in the wrong way, so we'll work with them. But I've had one malicious comment. What we did there is we went straight to the poster and said, can you remove your comment? We had to get their manager involved. We got their manager involved, and then we took it to HR, and we worked with HR through it. And then HR just then triggered the usual processes that you would do. Exactly. In a workplace environment, you're still at work. But just remind people, like as I said, I would be going to people meetings. I would be turning up at huddles. I would be. I did a lot of work. We had to, as a team, as a comms team, we were promoting the tool, but you also have to make people aware of how they should be showing up online.
Yeah. So definitely, and there's definitely something there about, the role of comms and working with comms and HR, as you mentioned before, as well, especially around some of the policy piece. Something you mentioned was the roles. And I loved it when we were sort of talking yesterday. You talked about how useful it is to have different types of roles. Yeah. And you gave the example of how the roles sort of work similarly in your organization, but just talk through for anybody that's maybe setting this up at the start. So for example, somebody like Junior, who the organization's gone quite new into it. So as a network, they've probably now got these sub-communities that are set up in Viva Engage. What are the kinds of roles that help to keep it going and stop it from just being like a one-way thing with just a couple of people doing all of the talking?
So at Swoop Analytics, we've got personas. This is what I was talking about yesterday. So these personas, probably what you as a persona, what you are on Viva Engage, I definitely am on external channels like LinkedIn. Okay. So we have a broadcaster. You don't want to be a broadcaster. So minimal broadcast. You might have one community that's broadcast, and that's normally the comms just pushing out the news on the internet. That is where you see little engagement because you're just pushing. Okay. Then you have a responder. Now I am a responder, so I don't create that content. I don't see content. I do post on LinkedIn, but I'm very rarely. I am that person. I will be championing you from those sidelines. I will be loving stuff. I will be commenting. So they're the people. So as a community manager, you really want to be responding. So you want to make sure nothing goes unanswered. Nothing, everybody's been heard, everybody's been acknowledged. If you don't know that answer, you probably know somebody that can help, and you bring them into that conversation, you tag them. You have catalysts. So catalysts tend to be your senior leaders. They're good at posting. So they'll post, they engage. People are engaged with their posts, but as a catalyst, they don't go back to nurture comments. They don't, and that's really important. If you're going to get senior leaders using Viva Engage or Workplace or whatever they're going to be using, please make sure that if they're going to commit, they need to commit to also acknowledging responses, comments, even if it's a like or a thank you, make sure that's done. And then you have the engagers. Now, engagers are people that create engaging content, so people are engaging with them, but you also engage with others, so you are going in and responding. So I've just got some stats here that I just want to share. So if you are starting a community and you are, you're finding that it's maybe flatlining, or you've got only 2 or 3 people that are keeping that community alive, encourage others to use it. So if you ask a question, you're 150% more likely to get a response. So think of the question when you go in and post, ask a question. When you @mention, so when you bring people into those conversations, it leads to 120% more engaging conversations.
Right.
Okay, so make sure you lean in, you bring people into that conversation, like we are now, Cheryl, talking. I add your name, I bring you into that conversation.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same as online. So bring those people into conversation. And something my colleague Pete says, and I love it, he says focus on being engaged rather than engaging. So as that community manager, don't feel like it always has to be on you to post. Bring people in, as they ask those questions, and then naturally people will start using the community. It is the what's in it for me. It is that change curve when it comes to posting, and there's nothing worse than somebody posting for the very first time. Somebody might not naturally want to put themselves out there, they've done it, and then there's nothing, like tumbleweed. And you're like, make sure the community manager or get the team involved, get a few of you involved to just make sure people are liking, heard, acknowledged. So that it does take work.
I love those roles. And when you talked about it and said that even in your organization, in your team, that you kind of have these different roles, and I've written them down. I hope that anybody that is running a network maybe think about these roles. And the thing I would say as well, especially for employee networks, is you can share some of these roles among your committee, as in like your planning committee or leadership committee. But also I would look at who within your membership, right, you can get running these roles, because I would say these don't all have to be done by the committee. So you talked there about broadcaster, and that could be within the committee it might be the co-chair, or if you're fortunate enough to have a comms person within your network, it could be a comms person in your network. Then you've got your responders, and you probably I'd say you probably want to get either a few members of your committee and or members of the network as the responders, right? The people that go in, respond to questions, etc. Because this is, and we were talking about, how do we create that? And I don't want to mention them, but that very famous like online community, right? That's kind of buzzing where people go for advice. Then your catalyst. I mean, a catalyst for an employee network could even be like, say, the exec sponsor every now and again goes in and gives a view or something, and people are bound to gravitate to that post. And then also your engagers, which again, to me, that ideally is members and not necessarily the committee. And I think that's the way certainly that employee networks could do. So I know of quite a few employee networks where literally it's just like the two co-chairs that are kind of like doing all of the posting, and it's just not, it's not really that engaging. So actually having those, I kind of captured 4 roles: broadcasters, responders, catalysts, engagers as the role. And then also what you said about asking questions and at mentioning people, it's a great one. I've realized I've not really thought about how people can really use Viva Engage to canvass opinions, it's like to get members' opinions, like, should we do this or should we do that? Or, what are your thoughts on that? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've actually, I think we've got a case study of a new, I can't remember the company, but there's a case study on our website, and he joined the team as a senior exec, and I think it was a question on sustainability. You're going out to your front, your work, you've got like thousands of people using this channel that know the business better than anyone else. Ask them questions, get their feedback, get how they're feeling, and this is why leaders that don't use tools like Viva Engage, they're missing out. We know, again, from our analytics, from our research, we do the biggest benchmarking reports, and I'm pretty sure it's like 87% of people in workplace are going on Viva Engage. They might not all be posting. You do have a lot of lurkers, observers, but people are going on. They are using it, so find out, do temperature checks with it. How are people feeling? I've got some incredible stories of how large orgs are using tools like Workplace, Viva Engage. I know Workplace is sunsetted now, but there are absolutely other networks out there that can be used, but
Yeah.
temperature check, use it to find out what is happening.
I love there as well that you talked about the lurkers, the lurkers and the observers. Every platform
Everyone.
has them. I'm just going to circle back on some of the comments, and I'm trying to multitask, which obviously multitasking is a false economy, right? But I'm trying to multitask either because I can't quite see all of your comment on here, unfortunately. We're going to definitely get into this thing about leadership and the importance of leadership being involved in this as a strategy. There has to be an organised and proactive stance by leadership to reduce local inequalities and poverty in our community. So you're taking us a little bit broader there, Ivor, but I hear you. The possibilities of achieving this can only be achieved when leadership is willing to encourage the inclusion of residents to ensure that strategy is built on the valuable diversity of lived experience. Yeah, I can't quite read the whole thing either, but we are going to get into the importance of leadership actually in almost like setting the tone of like, you are allowed to go onto this channel and, this is kind of how we interact and communicate. Junior's pointed out this thing, and I guess this is probably true for anybody that was on like Workplace for Meta and is now moving to Viva Engage. There's that kind of like stickiness of this, I'm not familiar with it. It's a bit like, I'm a Mac user now, but whenever I have to go into then like the Windows or Microsoft environment, like my Mac does not like it at all. So there is that bit. I don't know. Have you seen any examples of, Gemma, of where an organization has gone over from, say, for example, a Workplace to Engage and what they've done, what has helped kind of get over the learning curve? That might be quite useful.
Actually, with Workplace sunsetting, actually, I think the majority of people have moved over to Viva Engage because most of the orgs that are using Microsoft 365, so part of their toolset platform, Viva Engage is available. But I get it, Junior. I was in exactly the same place. So when I rolled out Workplace at Virgin Media O2, like you said, it was like Facebook, so very easy to use. Viva Engage definitely has a very different user experience. I think it is just taking that time, using training. I think again, you can't just turn it on and hope for the best. You do need to train people. I personally, use Viva Engage first. So I used Yammer, then went to Workplace, and now back on Viva Engage. So I've been okay with it, but I do know that there have been what Junior's saying. I am hearing that a lot. So, like one of my customers, or a Canadian customer that I'm working with, exactly the same. So they've got a whole team working on it at the moment, just getting people understanding how to use it, because it is very different. But I think within, just let people have that time to go in, understand how to use it. People create some video. People learn so differently. People will learn by playing. People might want to watch a video. People might want to read instructions. So as long as you've got that space just to help people on how to use it, and I think quite quickly they'll get to it, but you do have to go in. So for me, Viva Engage, I either use it on the app, so I use it on my mobile device, or I just use it through Teams. I work in Teams.
And this is the real beauty of Viva Engage. So by the way, I came across Swoop very randomly when I was working with so many network leads that had this as a challenge, right? How do we get these online communities working? And I was like, I need to find somebody that understands this, right? And I came across Swoop, and I went on your brilliant you do a festival, right? Almost like a Viva Engage festival. And Swoop have lots of resources, and you've got stuff on like your YouTube channel. So I would say, honestly, any network leads that are watching this, if you haven't already been onto Swoop Analytics website or on the YouTube, go and check it out. And also some of the YouTube conversations and case studies that you've done with clients and with Microsoft, talking about the like the product roadmap and all of that. So I've found it incredibly useful, given that I'm not now in the corporate space, so I don't see it live. So almost everything I've learned, I've kind of learned via Swoop, basically. But let's talk about the importance of leaders getting involved, because otherwise I can imagine that you'll have a situation where almost like colleagues feel that they're not allowed to like go on it because like then they're spending work time on like Facebook, right, at work. So just tell us about the importance of leaders setting that tone and setting the culture of it's okay to, you know, for us to use this channel, even, you know, during work time to kind of communicate the importance of it.
Yeah, it is so important. And I would always say before you are launching a social network to make sure you do have a senior stakeholder that is just advocating for you and helping you.
Yeah.
We've actually got a webinar on this subject on Wednesday. So Wednesday the 4th, it's at 2 p.m. UK time. You can register for it on our website, but it's about getting leaders to lead online. And leading online is just as important as leading face to face, you know. You might not be able to touch everyone because of hybrid working, remote working. People are so spread out. You know, you might have your knowledge workers, you know, your desk-based workers, but then you do have your frontline workers. So they, like I said earlier, they've got a way in to touch all these people across the organisations. But it is really important, you know, it is more, I remember we did some myth busting once and said it's more than pet groups. They're always the fastest growing groups. And sometimes, you know, it's the way in for people. So it's more than pets. It is a strategic channel. It can be used strategically. But it is really important to get those stakeholders involved. Now, you're not going to get all your leadership team involved. You're not. So what I would recommend is focus on the ones that want to give it a go, that want to try, and work on them on building their profile. You know, if it's just a case of sitting with them while they get used to it. I've got another quick tip. I used to say to my senior leadership team, 5 minutes, you've got 5 minutes, install it onto your tablet as an app or your mobile device or in between meetings or if you're traveling. And then remember the 1, 2, 3 rule, okay? So every time you go on and do one post, you do 2 replies and then you do 3 reactions. So 1, 2, 3, 1 post, 2 replies, 3 reactions. And it gets them into that rhythm, that routine of going on Viva Engage or Workplace or whatever channel you're using. And start using it, and you know, just choose. You don't need. It doesn't matter what they go for. Just choose anyone and like it. Say thank you, because for you, you know, I was there. You know, with the people in stores getting a like from a director or the CEO. You know, it can go so far. It can, you know, and I just think about how people are feeling, where they are in their career.
Absolutely. And I want to link this because I think this links actually quite nice to some of a principle that really carries across for offline communities. So I'm having lots of conversations at the moment with networks prepping for Black History Month in the UK, which is October, obviously. But one of the things that I always say whenever it comes to like offline events, and even if it's just a networker, so just a mixer, just a social event, still get your exec members coming to those events, right? Because it will draw other people that, you know, if other people know that there is going to be an exec member there. And it's you said something about, you know, choose the ones that are, you know, keen to get involved. So I would sort of say it doesn't even always have to be your exec sponsor, like mix it up. Any exec member or senior leader that is available and or nearby, get them attending your events. I guarantee that you will start attracting more people and building like those offline communities. And then something else that you said, you talked about having Viva Engage on the app, and you talked about the impact of people in stores. Now, I know that engaging frontline colleagues, whether that be in a store or in an operational environment or in, you know, it could be like a hospital or hospitality or leisure or whatever, or manufacturing, is a real challenge. And the fact that Viva Engage has an app, I think is amazing, because a lot of staff do not have, you know, a PC or a desktop or whatever. So the app is incredible. But also for me, again, that link to the offline is, you know, when you're thinking about events and where you have networking events and things like that, you know, try to maybe base some of these around operational sites. Don't just have everything in the HQ, right? Get people out, get people away from their desks, get them out to operational sites, because it does a lot in terms of, you know, building people's knowledge of the business, but also reaching out to frontline colleagues as well. What else? Is there anything that we haven't covered yet in terms of just setup, in terms of setting up?
So I've got some. I'm just moving. I'm going to read some slides here. So I've got actually. Before you go and create your communities, just take that step back to think about your community type. What is that community going to be for? So I know we're talking about ERGs, but you can also have a community of practice. So things for like project managers. Think about setting them up. You can have your broadcast or these announcement groups. So look, think that minimum 1, maybe 2, because they're not going to be your communities that people are going to really engage with. So the objective of that group. You have your Q&A forums as well, so you can have those Q&A areas. To be honest, you can create a Q&A, but I still find you're limited for time. You're not really going to go to a Q&A group if you need to quickly find an answer to something. So you're going to post it in a community. So, think how that Q&A group, is it going to work? Is it going to be managed? We've got one of our customers actually based in the US. They've got an amazing group where you're an associate or working in a shop, and a customer will come in, they'll ask somebody a question. If they don't know that, they'll go to a dedicated group that is manned, called working out. It's amazing, and we've actually spoken about them in a case study. And then your social groups. So I talked about your pet groups. You can have your book club, your cooking, your photography. Is that sometimes it's that way in for people. Used to call it that hook. You hook somebody in that way, and then stay on the channel to find it. So just take that step back. What do you want to achieve with your group? As I said, you do need to community manage it. So if you're going to dedicate time, you are a community manager. Make sure you get people involved. Don't let it all be on you, because it's going to be it's tough if it's not working. We have at Swoop something called the influencer risk score. So what you want to do is evenly get it spread out with as many people as you can in that community, so it's just not all on you. Because then if you were to leave or move on or step down, what's going to happen to that community? So
exactly.
You need people involved.
And that often happens to networks. Sometimes either an influential person steps back, or something happens and the dynamic changes. I love what you mentioned in terms of some of the types of communities and the ways of drawing people in the hook. So the pets, so people sharing photos of their pets. People love pets, right? We were talking about cats just before we went live, right? So there's the pet group, the book club. I mean, I'm actually addicted to books, I think. So I love the idea of that, because book clubs, a lot of employee networks I know have book clubs. So actually, when I think about that, I mean, the possibilities are endless, right? So how you use Viva Engage, things like getting people to decide what book you're doing next, sharing the questions online. So actually people that maybe can't make the book club session itself, but maybe are interested in a couple of the questions. I mean, you should be choosing books that encourage a wide ranging discussion. So back to your thing, Gemma, about asking people questions, some of the topics and themes that came out of the book club should spur lots of interesting questions. What do you think about that? Some of the points that Ivor raised in his comment there, what are your thoughts on this really important topic, right? So I love that. And film club is the next thing for me. I've been advising people for Black History Month. I'm advising people to maybe do a film, a Pearl and Popcorn. I've got Pearl it's spelled P-U-R-L. I don't know if you know that film, Pearl. It's a short animated film, but something like recommending a film, and then people kind of just go and give their comments on a film or a video or something. So you can just take, you can get really creative with it, I think is the key, right?
Yeah, you can be creative. You can encourage people to be creative, have fun with it. There's loads on our website. Like, I'm more than happy to be people to connect with me. I can
amazing
and help people. But I would just be creative, have fun. It does take time. It doesn't happen overnight. But if you've done right, it can completely transform the way that communicate, the way you promote these employee resource groups. I have got some amazing examples of people where you've created safe communities, safe spaces for people, and then which has allowed them to be themselves. encourage them to be themselves, and
Yeah.
you know, it can go a long way. It can mean so much to people.
And any final tips, Gemma, for anybody that's watching this? Maybe that you know, maybe they know that it's coming. They know that Viva Engage is coming into their organisation. What final tips have you got for them?
Go on, don't be afraid. 1, 2, 3 rule. So go on, do 1 post, 2 replies, and 3 reactions. Just go on and just encourage people. Don't be afraid to post. Please don't. I know sometimes it can be daunting, but you're going to open up a whole new network of people that you would never normally get to meet, you know, and that's why I think I loved it. And I am still in touch with a lot of people that I met on the networks at you know, wherever I've been, because I would never have normally got to meet them. So use it. It is like a LinkedIn at work.
Yeah. And it's really interesting. There's almost like this mutual thing of how the online, you know, if you can, I think especially with so many people virtual and hybrid, if you can get it to work online, it will really support your offline as well. So they should be almost like, you know, they should benefit each other basically. So I've been raving about Swoop because I really do think that it's one of the best things that I've come across very recently. Where can people find out more about Swoop, and how is it best for them to connect with you, Gemma, if they want to hear more about what you do and read all of and that's the thing, you've got so many free resources as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. So our website is www.swoopanalytics.com. I would go there. We have case studies. We have I think it's under the events or resources events. So we have the Viva Engage Festival coming up. That's going to be in November. That's, you know, last year I had Comcast talking for the US. We have Places for People. They're based in Manchester, I think, and they have got an amazing CEO, Greg, who uses Viva Engage. So I would actually signpost that. You can find that on our website. Get in touch though if you can't find things, or if you need some help. We've got blog posts on there. I've written a few blogs, or, you know, the whole team. And most of us actually swoopers were former internal communicators. We were all customers. I was a customer of Swoop. Then we're doing the webinar on Wednesday about getting your leaders online. So sign up for that as well.
Yeah, I wish I could have been at that webinar. Is it going to be recorded? You record the webinar?
Yeah, we record it. So we'll record it. Yeah. And then we'll share the slides as well afterwards.
Yeah,
so,
amazing. Pauline, I think, has summed it up brilliantly. Wonderful call. I recommended it to someone who was on a call yesterday who's setting up a new network group. Yes. And so much of this can be applied to starting out. Thank you both. Thank you, Pauline, for joining us. Honestly, the information, I think one of the first things of your resources that I absolutely absorbed was I want to say, is it an annual report that you do, or like a benchmarking survey?
We do the largest benchmarking report. So so the new one is coming out in, I think, October, November, and so we're working on that at the moment. And I tell you, one of the findings is the noise, how we can help with the noise and how people are dealing with, because it's not just internal comms. You've got comms coming from everywhere at the moment. And so we're working on that, but we are looking at the findings at the moment. So that will be available, again, completely free. So the benchmarking reports, and just understand, you know, what we have actually seen. And I think I said to you yesterday, over the years, that the tools like social networks or Viva Engage have become that, used to be that two-way, breaking down silos, knowledge sharing, ideation. We are seeing it move more to that internal comms broadcasting channel, which, like, I think it's because of, since COVID, it was another way to communicate. But for me personally, I think the magic happens when it's that two-way. You build those engagement, you build those relationships, you let everybody have a voice. Hierarchy, there is no hierarchy. You know, everyone can be involved, and that is, for me, is the special thing about tools like Viva Engage.
Absolutely amazing. A perfect place to leave it there. So, you know, if you want to know more, you know, if you are in early stages of Viva Engage, particularly, you know, if you are a network leader, or if just broader than that, because I do think that obviously with Viva Engage as part of the Microsoft suite, you know, it's coming. If you haven't got it already, it's coming. So you may as well kind of like get involved and figure out how to make it work for you, for your teams, in terms of giving everybody a voice, etc., and making it be a thing that actually unites people rather than dividing, right? We're in such a divisive environment at the moment. So so lovely to finish on something so positive. Gemma, thank you again for stepping into the breach, because as I say, 24 hours ago, Gemma was not planned to do this, but thankfully stepped in at the last minutes that we could still have this conversation, because I know community is still so important. So Gemma, thank you so much. Thank you to everybody that has joined us live. If you're watching this on the replay, thank you for taking 45 minutes out of your day to watch this. I do really appreciate it. And that's it. We're out of here. Have a good weekend, everyone. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.